He was seated at the parlor in Darkwood, his country estate, when at approximately midnight tonight, someone put a gun to the man's head and a bullet through his brain. He died instantaneously, or so the coroner told me. I didn't think to ask if the damage was permanent as well. In case you're wondering, my name is Paris. Police Detective Lieutenant Kenneth James Paris, at your service. I got the call, Miss Lansing, from the station to report her husband's demise. I gathered my forensics team into the squad cars and raced towards Darkwood Manor. Sirens screamed. They made quite a racket, but not, I can assure you, enough to wake the dead. In addition to Charles Lansing, there were 7 other people at Darkwood Manor tonight. There was his wife of 1 year, Evelyn Lansing. He married her only 3 months after the second Mrs. Lansing died. Or rather, she married him, if you catch my drift. The charming nuptials were performed against the expensive advice of Mr. Lansing's lawyer, Carolyn Basco. Equally opposed to a union made in heaven knows where were Mr. Lansing's 2 stepchildren, Craig and Laura Williams. Craig Williams is, sad to say, a victim of arrested development. Though he is an adult in many respects, emotionally, the man is no more than 10 years old. It seems his main purpose in life was to stay out of his stepfather's way. Laura Williams is quiet-natured, like her brother, but hers is a brooding silence. There appears to be an intelligent work of mind behind those seemingly innocent eyes. She gives the impression that she knows something you don't. Perhaps she does. Although Mr. Lansing was a staid and humorless man, he did allow himself one eccentricity, a belief in the supernatural. The man truly believed he could return from beyond the grave. He planned on having one Madame Arcadia, born Charlotte Ann Smith, to be his ticket back, as it were. In fact, the good madam had just concluded a seance tonight with people you've just met. And that leaves only the handyman Fenton Marchbanks and the housekeeper Minnie Marchbanks to introduce. Fenton Marchbanks, Minnie Marchbanks. Solving a murder is not as easy as TV shows like Criminal Minds or Sherlock Holmes would have you believe. First, I had to determine that a murder had actually taken place, instead of, say, an accident or a suicide. I knew at once Mr. Lansing had been the victim of foul play, unless he somehow managed to shoot himself in the head and then swallow the pistol. The missing murder weapon, that's what labeled it a homicide. Next, I had to assume that whoever offed Elliot Millionaire had to have a motive. And as any good armchair detective knows, opportunity. The Lansing clan had plenty of both. By the time I was done interrogating them, I had more suspects than a Toll House cookie has chocolate chips. As our forensics team was working at the house for evidence, I questioned them all in the other room. Attorney Bascombe and Madame Arcadia drove back to the cold morning air to join us. Piecing their stories together, I got a partial picture of what occurred here at Darkwood Manor tonight. Madame Arcadia began her testimony by recalling a conversation she had had earlier with Charles Lansing, only hours before he left us to join his ectoplasmic cohorts on the other side.
I came to Darkwood once a week to read the tarot cards for Mr. Lansing. See, at our reading last week, the death card appeared in every pattern I dealt. It seemed to upset him.
I'm not afraid to die, Madame Arcadia, but I do not wish to leave this life yet. There's still much I wish to accomplish.
Oh, yes, it is a pity we cannot choose the time of our departure, but alas.
I've made enemies, dangerous enemies. Perhaps even some would cut my life short if given the opportunity. That is why, should I leave this world before my work here is done, I shall return. Not as some newborn entity, but as Charles Lansing. Do you believe that to be possible?
Anything is possible in the spiritual world, Mr. Lansing.
And when I return, it will be through you, Madame Arcadia. We are attuned, you and I. You will become the physical instrument to serve my needs.
How wonderful that would be, how challenging I would try to.
And in order to serve my needs, you will need power. And money is power. That is why I decided to change my mind, as well as my will, and leave inform Mrs. Baspro to change the will. She was shocked at my decision, naturally. She, as well as my family, only partake in our little seances to soothe me, as I'm sure you're well aware. You and I, well, we're the only true believers.
Yes, yes, you and I.
Yes, yes.
Have a seat. Madam Arcadia, Mrs. Lansing would have made Mr. Lansing's fortune, would have made you a millionaire. Many people have committed murder for much less.
I would have made the key words, are they not, Lieutenant? See, since Mr. Lansing died before signing the new will, his worldly possessions go to his widow, I believe. I mean, I received nothing.
How did you know that Mr. Lansing did not sign the will? Perhaps if you had assumed that he had.
I was aware he had not signed the new will. See, Carolyn Bascombe was kind enough to let me ride in with her from town. After the seance, as we were preparing to leave, Mrs. Bascombe remembered she still had the new will in her purse, so she returned to the parlor to give it to him.
Mr. Lansing did not see you out?
Oh, he always had guides us in the parlor. Mrs. Lansing and the young people saw us to the door, and the Marchbanks helped us with our coats.
How did you know that Mr. Lansing did not sign the will once Miss Bascombe gave it back to him?
She said not. She said that he said for her to leave it so that he could look it over first.
How did you know that Mr. Lansing did not sign the will once you had left?
He could have, but obviously he didn't. If you want to know more about the will, I suggest you talk to Carolyn Bascombe.
Did you ever try questioning a lawyer? It's a real pain. Not only do they know the laws better than you do, they know who wrote them. You scratch the politicians' backs to get them enacted. Carolyn Bascombe, however, proved to be quite cooperative. A cooperative lawyer, huh? That alone was enough to make her a suspect.
It was just as you say, Madame Arcadia told you. I left the others at the entry hall and returned to the parlor with the new will. I nearly forgot to give you this. That ridiculous will you had me draw up. Evan will try to break it, you know? Can't say that I blame her.
But you did draw it up according to my instructions?
Of course I did.
Good. I should inform Madame Arcadia that if Evelyn should try and claim I was kooky, a little loose, less than competent when I had to draw this up, that the good sensitive can bring in my psychiatrist, Dr. Yeager, to refute my loving spouse. He may
Charles.
consider my beliefs to be quite eccentric.
No. Please,
Oh.
just listen to me. Don't do this.
I'm not so sure why you're upset about this. I've never got the feeling that you or Evelyn are particularly fond of each other.
We're not. But there are your stepchildren to consider here.
Believe me, Carini, I know what I am doing here.
But Charles, please just listen to me.
Enough! The subject is closed. Madame Arcadia is awaiting you to drive her home, is she not?
So, the lawyer couldn't convince him, huh?
It was impossible. His decision was already made.
And what of the other will? There is another will in existence, is there not?
Yes, the will that they had made shortly after he married Evelyn. Everything goes to her.
And what are the stepchildren? Are they not provided for?
He cares very little for them. They're not in either will.
I wonder if Mrs. Lansing will continue to care for the stepchildren.
You'll have to ask her that question.
Did you ever notice the similarities between a chuckle and a sob? Sometimes it might be hard to tell the difference. I suppose that Mrs. Lansing was crying the night her husband butted heads with a bullet, but I got the distinct impression she had a hard time keeping the corners of her mouth turned down. Have a seat, Mrs. Lansing. Talk directly into the mic.
I have no idea who killed my husband, Lieutenant Paris.
Are you saying that he had no enemies?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he had too many enemies. Any number of people might have wished him dead. Former business associates he had destroyed, for instance.
Let's keep it a little closer to home for now, shall we? You yourself had good motive to kill him, did you not?
You mean the will business?
I do.
Of course Carolyn told you about the will. She'll do anything she can think of to cast suspicion on me. She hates me, you know.
Why should she hate you?
Well, I suspect she's been in love with Charles for years. long before his first wife died and he married Ava. Though she did manage to accept Ava and even came to care for those worthless children of hers. But she never accepted my marriage to him.
Did Mr. Lansing know of these feelings Miss Bascombe had?
Of course he did. He just preferred me to her, that's all.
If he was willing to cut you out of the will as fast as he would clip a hangnail, you obviously knew that.
We all knew it. Craig, Laura, the Marshbanks, he made sure we were all aware of his plans.
Mrs. Lansing, did you kill your husband?
No, I did not, and I can prove it.
Oh?
After seeing Carolyn and Madame Arcady out, Laura and I climbed the stairs together. Laura went into the west wing where she and Craig have their suites, and I went into Charles's in my bedroom. I think I heard Craig say he was going out for a while. You can ask him about that.
Do you recall what time this was?
10:15 or thereabouts.
And what did you do then?
I had a splitting headache. Madame Arcadia's seances have probably made several aspirin companies wealthy. I took a long soak in the tub with a cool washcloth laid over my forehead. Then I turned on the television and went to bed.
Do you recall what time that was?
The 11 o'clock showing was coming on. Imitation of Life with Laura Turner. I can tell you the plot.
It comes on quite often. I can tell you the dialogue. And for how long did you watch?
I stopped at 11:45. I know because that's when I got up and looked at the clock. Charles was still downstairs. I assumed he was reviewing the new will. I decided to try one last time to dissuade him from signing it.
You had tried before?
Ever since he told me about it, he ignored me.
So you went to the parlor at 11:45.
Yes, I knocked. Charles, I said, let me in. I have to speak with you.
Go away. Leave me alone. Ugh.
I could tell by his voice that he was drunk.
After he dismissed you, you went straight back to bed?
I was heading back upstairs when I heard the shot. Craig heard it too and came running from his suite. It's funny what you notice during a crisis, isn't it? He was still fully dressed, and I remember thinking he hadn't gone to bed yet. Anyways, we went downstairs together. He'll tell you.
Mr. Williams in the hall after the gunshot was fired. Of course, either could be lying. I decided to question Mr. Williams about his whereabouts tonight anyway.
That's right, Lieutenant Paris. Like Evelyn said, I drove over to the Sunset Lounge a little after the seance.
Do you recall what time it was when you arrived?
I don't know, I left shortly after the guest, so it couldn't have been any later than 10:30.
And for how long did you stay?
I don't know, about an hour?
Anybody there that can vouch for you?
Sure. Jilly, the bartender, the waitresses, they all know me.
Sure. I'll look into it. And you came straight home after you left the bar?
Yes, it takes about 15 minutes to get home, then I went upstairs to bed.
And you didn't leave your room until you heard the gunshot?
No.
Mr. Williams, might I ask, what were you doing in there?
I don't understand. Sleeping?
Do you usually sleep fully clothed?
What?
Mrs. Lansing said you still had all your clothes on when you came back out after the gunshot was heard.
Sounds like something she'd say. She's trying to throw suspicion on me.
She did not accuse you of anything.
Well, I did still have my clothes on. You see, I had had a little too much to drink at the lounge. And when I got home, I kind of just passed out on top of my covers.
Yet you weren't out cold enough for the gunshot to wake you up?
No, I heard it. I heard something.
Mr. Williams, I get the impression you don't care for your stepmother much.
Oh, I hate her.
Would you mind telling me why?
Oh, I'll tell you exactly what kind of monster she really was.
I'm listening.
She was Charles' assistant back before my mother died. Charles moved her in, gave her the guest suite, said he wanted her available when he needed her. One day I found out what he wanted her available for. You see, everyone was away from the house that day. Laura and Mother were out shopping. I was over at the club playing some tennis. Charles had sent Fenton and Minnie on a weekend vacation. I'd only played one set when I fell and sprained my wrist. I came home early, went to Charles and Mother's room to see if they had any bandages in the medicine cabinet. When I opened the door, Charles and Evelyn were...
I get the picture. It must have been quite a shock for you, Mr. Williams.
You don't know.
What did you do then?
Well, they hadn't seen me, so I went to my room and waited till Mother and Laura got home. Then I told my sister.
Miss Williams proves the old adage, still waters run deep, be true. Looking at her calm demeanor, You would never suspect the hatred she held for Mrs. Lansing or the woman's late husband.
When Craig told me about Charles and Evelyn, I was shocked, but not surprised. I knew what Evelyn Stanley was after the first time I met her, and I think Mother did too. I thought he would get tired of Evelyn, though, the way he did the others. Oh yes, Lieutenant, there were others. But I was wrong. Evelyn dug her claws into him deep and started to flaunt their relationship in front of Mother. Finally, Mother couldn't ignore it any longer. My father had left her plenty of money when he died. Poor Mother. Charles had quietly absorbed her fortune into his own, quite legally, but none of us knew that at the time. It was only after Mother's death.
Miss Williams, how did your mother die?
The coroner ruled it an accident. It was shortly after Mother had promised to leave Charles that she fell down the stairs to the fruit cellar. Don't ask me why Mother would be going to the cellar. Minnie does all the cooking here, but Minnie was upstairs changing the beds. Fenton was tending the lawn. Craig and I were out, so that only left Charles and Evelyn on the main floor working in the study, so they said. They said they heard a scream, rushed to the kitchen, and saw that the cellar door was open. Her neck was broken.
Why did you decide to stay in Darkwood after this?
Craig, the Marshbanks have looked over us all our lives. They're the closest thing to both parents we have now. But Craig depends on me. He doesn't cope well by himself. I got a job in town shortly after Mother died. Not much, but a job. I was trying to save money to get a place for Craig and I. After yesterday, I was going to leave anyways. Something happened. I don't want to talk about it.
I understand. Miss Williams, can you tell me more about your movements around the house tonight?
There's not much to say. After I said goodbye to Carolyn and Madame Arcadia, I went upstairs and got ready for bed. I dozed off, and I woke up at, 11:35. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I decided to get up, put on my robe, and go to the library, get something boring to read to make me drowsy again.
So you went to the library.
Yes, 10 to 12.
Did you happen to pass the parlor on the way there?
No, the library is on the opposite main floor ring.
Did you see anybody else about the house?
No,
Hear anybody?
no.
And you were in the library when you heard the gunshot go off, correct?
Yes, I rushed directly to the parlor.
Were you the first to arrive?
Evelyn and Craig were coming down the main staircase as I passed through the entry hall. We all got to the parlor doors within seconds of one another.
Mrs. Marshbanks appears to be a simple soul. Not the kind of person you put as the prime suspect in a murder case. But if she had been in the house at the time the shot was fired, well, I've been in this Mrs. Marshbanks, please try to stay calm.
Ooh, I'm so nervous. I ain't never been questioned by a detector before.
I can assure you it is completely routine.
Making the beds and cooking the meals is routine for me, not killings.
Mrs. Marshbanks, you were in your bedroom when you heard the gunshot go off, correct?
That's right, all by me lonesome in my creepy bedroom in the attic. I get so nervous when I'm all by me lonesome.
Where was your husband at the time?
Well, Fenton had gone downstairs and out into the garden. He was standing by our bedroom window when he said he saw a light like a flashlight moving around down there.
Did you see this light as well, Mrs. Marshbanks?
Call me Minnie. Ooh, no, I peeked, but I didn't see nothing but nothing.
And at what time did your husband see this light?
Well, it was 13 minutes till midnight. Ain't that creepy? 13 minutes till midnight. I told him not to go down there. I said, Fenton, maybe that Madame Arcadia did done conjured up a spirit and he don't know how to get back where he belongs.
He went anyway.
That's right, he just put on his pants and left. Ooh, that sounds like something a trollop would say, don't it?
Mrs. Minnie, this is quite a large estate. I would assume it takes many hours to keep it so pristine.
Oh, it does, it does.
Wouldn't midnight be quite a late time to go to bed for you?
Well, usually, but we was up late tonight and the night before discussing this problem.
Problem?
Well, we was trying to figure out a way to leave Darkwood and take the kids with us.
Why would you want to leave Darkwood?
Ooh, it's so terrible.
Tell.
Well, I hate to speak ill of the dead, but Mr. Lansing was a horrible man. Not to me and Fenton so much, but to...
Yes?
Well, it was last night, or rather, the night before last, it being morning now. Miss Bascom had come by to ask Charles something about the new will. I was about to let her in the parlor, but When I heard him speak, I knew he wasn't alone.
My dear, would you be so kind as to pour me a brandy? You've become a very desirable young woman, Laura.
I didn't think you ever noticed me, Charles, Craig, or me.
Delicious. Brandy, like women, should be ignored until the ripening process is complete.
Charles, I'm very tired. Please tell me what you wanted.
I am telling you, Laura, you've become a very desirable young woman. Very.
How dare you?
Why, you little... There's no need to be so provincial. We're not bloodkin, you know.
If you were a total stranger, I would still find you revolting.
It could behoove you to be a little kinder to me. Perhaps I may change my mind, leave you a tiny little sum in my will, should you make it worth my time.
Keep your money, will it to whomever you please, and the sooner you're dead, the better.
Oh, Laura.
When Miss Laura ran out of the parlor, she saw us, of course, but she just ran on right by, crying. The poor baby. Miss Bascom left without speaking to the mister.
So that's why you wanted to leave Darkwood.
Yes, Mr. Lieutenant.
Minnie, just a few more questions. You heard the gunshot go off around midnight, correct?
That's right, but me being way up in the eaves and all, it was more like a firecracker gonna pop. But I heard it. Ooh, I was so nervous I almost dropped me teeth.
I can imagine.
I was putting them in me water glass, and I nearly dropped them.
And you went downstairs where you met Mr. Williams and Mrs. Lansing at the foot of the stairs.
That's right. That's where we all was when Fenton unlocked the doors to let us in.
If I'd been outside them doors, said it me, I'd have come myself for what he tried, Miss Laura. Not with a gun, but with my bare hands. It's a sin what money does to some people. Makes them think they can take whatever they want. Just reach right out and grab it. He took Miss Stanley when he wanted her, even though Miss Ava was under the same roof. There were others, too. Even talk of him and that lawyer woman a long time ago. Sinful, wicked and sinful he was.
Mr. Marshbanks, you admit that you could have killed Charles Lansing. Did you kill him?
Now, I've done some dumb things, but murder ain't one. But I would have if he ever touched Miss Laura again. Seems like somebody done saved me trouble.
Your wife told me you saw a light a little bit before midnight. Can you tell me exactly what happened?
Well, I took my flashlight and went down the stairs and out the back door. I was coming to the side of the house and around the corner when I heard the gunshot. Mr. Lansing! Madam, don't!
Piecing together the 7 testimonies you've just heard. I suppose that Mr. Lansing could have been killed by a chance intruder, or maybe even an old business enemy from the past, but I didn't think so. I had the suspicion that at least one of the suspects was lying to me. My job now was to figure out who had been lying and whether they're lying to cover up their own guilt or to protect someone else. I gathered them all into the parlor. Does anybody wish to change their testimony before we continue? No? All right then. Now, while I was questioning you all in the other room, my forensics team was searching the house for evidence. They made several interesting discoveries. First, they managed to lift fingerprints from items around this room. We then matched those fingerprints with those of the ones we took from you all earlier. Your collected fingerprints were found all over the room. Of course, that is to be expected, since you all were in here earlier this evening for the seance. However, only yours and Mr. Lansing's fingerprints were found.
But if they were an intruder, isn't it likely that they could have worn gloves?
That's very true, Miss Bascom. So the lifting of fingerprints has yielded no new evidence at this time. Secondly, Mr. Lansing was shot point blank with a .22 caliber revolver. However, there are no burn marks upon his face. In case you are unfamiliar with weapons, this is what a .22 caliber revolver looks like. You should recognize this gun, Mr. Williams. It has your fingerprints all over it. A .22 Smith & Wesson was missing from the label compartment in the gun dip. This is that weapon, is it not?
I took it, but
My man found it hidden in the mattress in your bedroom.
Mr. Paris, please.
They also found tiny shards of glass in the sweater you wore earlier this evening. Shards of glass from, I don't know, a window pane. Perhaps a French door window pane?
Don't say another word, Craig. You have the right to consult an attorney before answering any more of Lieutenant Paris's questions. If you would like to ask Craig any more questions, you can ask them through me. Here's my card.
Mr. Williams would need a lawyer, Miss Bascom, if you're being charged with a crime. However, at this time, he is not. This gun is fully loaded and has not yet been fired.
But what?
I think we still need to figure out a little bit more about Mr. Williams' whereabouts tonight, but I'll leave that for later. For now, a twig. Dogwood, perhaps. Probably not important.
But just who do you think killed Charles Lansing then?
Any of you. All of you. Mrs. Lansing, you had the most to gain financially from your husband's death. You could have killed him for the money.
Except I have 3 witnesses who can prove I was upstairs when my husband was shot.
Ah, yes. You, Mr. William, and Miss Marshbanks all seem to provide each other ironclad alibis, don't you?
and Laura. Laura was in the entry hall too.
You did see your sister at the foot of the stairs, Mr. Williams, but it does not prove that she came there from the library. She could just as easily ran out after shooting Mr. Lansing to meet you all.
Laura wouldn't do that.
We will see, Mr. Williams, we will see. Miss Williams, you said you were going to the library to find a book, something to make you drowsy.
Yes,
Had you made a selection?
yes, Lieutenant.
And what did you choose?
Crime and Punishment.
Did you have the book with you when you ran back here to the parlor?
No, and I didn't drop it on the floor either. I can't use the book as my alibi. I was just reaching for it when I heard the shot.
That's a shame. You're very astute.
I like to read Agatha Christie when I want to stay awake.
Hercules Poirot?
He's my favorite.
Mine too. And Mr. Marshbanks was outside at the time.
That's right, Lieutenant. You only got my word for that.
And Miss Bascom was at home alone.
Yes. I was at home when Evelyn had called me at around 12 to tell me that Charles had been murdered. She asked me to return to Darkwood. I live in town a good hours away from here, so there's no possible way that I could have been in both places at once.
Don't forget, I was at home in bed when Miss Lansing called me also.
Anybody there that can substantiate that for you?
Lieutenant Paris! I am simply a madam by profession. No, I mean, achoo!
Bless you.
I'll have you know, sir, achoo!
Assume place.
That I am, achoo!
So I've been
A maiden lady, achoo!
Salute. Madam Arcadia, you all right?
No! Achoo! There's dust all over the floor!
There ain't. I vacuumed the floor this afternoon. I did.
How many?
This ain't dust. It's powder. Fingerprint powder your detective friends left, no doubt.
This isn't fingerprint powder. It's face powder. A woman's face powder. Did any of you ladies happen to drop your compact this evening during the seance?
Never used the stuff.
I don't think so. No.
It's not mine, but I do love that shade.
Couldn't have been I. I dropped mine the other day and haven't had time to replace it.
It's probably not important. Miss Bascom, that reminds me. You might as well put these back in Mr. Lansing's file at your office. I'll call you later in the week to work out the legal papers.
Lieutenant, could the rest of this investigation possibly be postponed until later? I, for one, am exhausted, and I'm sure the others are as well.
Mrs. Lansing, if you'll give me just a little bit more of your time, I'm sure we can solve the mystery of who killed Charles Lansing before anybody leaves this room tonight. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to make a few phone calls. I shall be in the dip.
He thinks it's one of us. That's ridiculous. It was obviously an intruder. Someone broke the glass in the French doors to get in.
Well, if there was an intruder, how come Charles didn't cry out for help or run? There's obviously no sign of a struggle.
He had probably passed out drunk. He sounded almost to that point when I spoke to him through the door.
But how could he have been tipsy? I filled his brandy decanter up this afternoon, and look, no more than a glass or two has been poured.
So you've become a detective now, Minnie. Put that down and shut up before you say something stupid and embarrass yourself.
Hey, you don't have to be so...
Oh, shut up, you two. You look like a pair of vultures hovering there.
You shouldn't talk to them that way.
I'll talk to all of you any way I want to. Darkwood belongs to me now. And I'll be making some changes around here. Frank, sit down. Yes, sit down. You sit too, Laura. I want to talk to all that Charles is dead, I'll be making the decisions concerning this household. To begin with, your services will no longer be required at Darkwood after tonight, Madam Arcadia.
I know you've never really believed in the preternaturalism, Mrs. Lansing, but your husband believed deeply. And that's why he's going to leave his worldly possessions to me. So we can fulfill this mission we were devoted to. So I was wondering if maybe, out of respect for his wishes, of course, you could donate some of the money.
To you, so you can carry out some harebrained psychic scheme you and Charles cooked up. I don't think so. You're out of your mind if you think you'd ever see one red cent of his money now. I'd burn it in the fireplace before I'd ever let you get your hands on it, you crazy old fake.
A simple no would have been sufficient.
Craig, Laura, you were both adults. It's time you got out on your own. Charles let you stay here out of loyalty to Ava, but I have no such ties to you.
Did he let us live here out of loyalty or guilt?
What do you mean by that?
You know exactly what I mean. You were in the house with him the day of Mother's accident.
Are you
I am
accusing?
saying that when two violent deaths have occurred in the same house, then perhaps it would be wise to make possible connections. I said as much to Lieutenant Paris.
And I'm supposed to be the link between Charles's death and Ava's. Is that what you're implying?
It's not just Laura that thinks that. We all do.
Craig, this won't do any good.
You're darned right it won't. You can believe whatever you want to, but you can't prove anything, can you? I'll tell you what you can do, however. As soon as Lieutenant Paris is finished with us, you can both go upstairs, pack your bags, and get out of this house for good.
Oh, Lord.
Please, Miss Lansing, let them stay till things get settled anyway.
I want them out of here tonight.
Well, if they go, we're going with them, ain't we, Fenton?
Minnie's right, Miss Lansing. We couldn't stay here if you kicked Miss Laura and Mr. Craig out.
Go then. You think I care if you do? In fact, I think I'd feel a lot safer if you'd all get out of this house.
What do you mean safer?
I mean that this one here has the nerve to suggest that I killed Charles and possibly Ava. But I was upstairs when my husband was shot, as Craig and Minnie can verify. She, on the other hand, could have easily killed him just before meeting us in the entry hall, as Lieutenant Paris so readily pointed out. I mean that I'd sleep a lot easier knowing that this little finger-pointing innocent wasn't under the same roof. And what about Fenton? He's the only one of us who has no alibi for 12 o'clock.
Well, Evelyn, if you're so worried for your safety, I suggest you lock your doors at night. You're not throwing Laura or Craig or anybody else out tonight.
And why not?
Because Darkwood isn't officially yours yet. Not until Charles's will is probated. As executor of the will, I'm in charge of Darkwood until you take possession. And I say that nobody is leaving tonight.
My. The ingenious Mrs. Bascom has brought you a privacy. I suggest you use this time to look for jobs and places to live. You won't be getting either from me much longer. And Carolyn,
Yes?
I will no longer require your services either once the will has been probated.
Well, I hadn't intended to represent you beyond this.
Well then, I guess that settles everything, doesn't it?
Not everything. There's some matter of Mr. Lansing's murder to be resolved.
Oh yes, which our good detective has promised he will do this very night. And he has us all where he wants us. Lieutenant Paris's 7 suspects.
Ooh, 7 is a very powerful number. It has very strong mystic properties.
Oh really? As in Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs?
They helped slay the witch, didn't they?
Okay, I wonder who Lieutenant Paris is calling.
I have no idea. You can stand by the door and listen in if you really want to know.
I would never do that.
Of course not. How foolish of me to suggest such a thing. Ava taught you much better manners than that, didn't she?
You better watch what you say about my mother, Evelyn.
I had nothing against the woman, Laura. Quit being so sensitive.
She was a good soul. Too good for the likes of Mr. Lansing.
But Charles wanted her, and Charles always got what he wanted, sooner or later.
Evelyn, did you ever love him?
What?
I said, did you ever love him?
I married him, didn't I?
That doesn't answer my question.
I'll answer it, if you will.
Yes.
No.
I would say he should have married you, Carolyn, but I'm glad he didn't. He would have made you miserable.
Charles made everybody miserable, whether he was married to them or not.
It's true, but with you, at least he got some of his own back.
Look, we've all said some bad things about the mister tonight, We should let him rest. It's wicked to speak ill of the dead.
It's also very unwise. He can hear us, you know.
Oh, Lord, you don't mean it.
Don't be a fool, Minnie. Charles is dead, and he's going to stay dead. Now, close your mouth and get us something to drink. I'll have a brandy. Anyone else?
How dare you? I never touch spirits.
No, thank you.
No.
After tonight, I don't think I'll drink ever again.
Well, I was going to propose a toast to our unbeloved and unlamented Charles, but since you won't join me, I'll drink to him alone. To Charles, may he rest in peace forever.
What is it?
Miss Lansing!
What's going on? What's happening?
She can't breathe.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next 5 minutes or so, I'd like to ask for your assistance in solving the mystery of who killed Charles Lansing. I'll allow you to ask a question to one of the suspects up here. Raise your hand. When I call on you, state your name, the name of the suspect who you wish to question, and ask your question. Let's get started. Who would like to go first? Little boy right there in the black shirt. The black and white shirt, sorry.
I think it's her.
Very
I
well
do too.
positioned. You're a great
We do
demonstration.
too.
Any other questions? Blue shirt here, third row.
I'd like to know what you were doing outside at that time of the night.
Well, I saw the flashlight, so I was going to inspect if there's somebody trying to break in.
I see.
Stripes, white, black stripes.
You said in your statement to him that first you didn't leave until 11:30, but then you said you were in the library from 10 to 12. So was you there at 11:30 or from 10 to 12?
I woke up at 11:30 and I couldn't get back to sleep, so I went to the library after that.
Okay.
Anyone else? All the way in the back, white shirt.
How old were Laura and Fred when their mother died?
Well,
Oh, Lord, if you guys can't remember, it was literally 7 years ago. What are you, 22 now? Do the math.
I'm not very good at math, you know that.
Anyone else? Purple jacket right here. You. Mrs. Lansing, where were you?
Well, you see, I was taking a bath trying to clear my mind from her craziness.
They can hear you.
Sure they can.
Who's they?
Oh, you can't
All
see
the way
them.
there,
Oh,
the
I
gray
forgot.
sweater.
Sorry.
Great question.
That is a great question.
I'd like
Why
to know
did
that
you
as
marry
well.
Charles? You don't even love him.
I'd like to
We
know
all
that.
know
But
what
you
you
did, you know, and I couldn't let him go to your awful hands.
Any other questions? Oh, red jacket here in the front.
What 2 things you hate?
Well, you see, I hate children and animals, unless they're made of fur, of course.
Anybody else? Right here.
Charles over there. Is there any dogwoods on the property?
You should know that.
Yeah,
Would you like to answer the man?
I don't believe there is. I trim the trees every day.
Wonderful question. Thank you for the help. Any more questions? Right here in the front.
What kind of twig did you find in there?
I'm pretty sure it was dogwood. I'm not exactly a master of trees, but in my experience, it does look like a dogwood tree.
And he trimmed the dogwood.
I would assume that
Well,
would be his job, yes.
Lieutenant, if you let me look at it, I can tell you if it's a dogwood or not.
Well, all right. Let's see. I kept it actually on me.
Oh, don't touch the evidence. That messes with the case.
Lawyers.
I,
Anybody
I, I,
else?
believe, I believe that is a dogwood.
Right there in the hat.
To Madame Marquea, if you did the seance and then you left and he died, why weren't you sweet sneezing earlier or the powder on the floor? What was that?
It
Was
was.
it there before or was it to come after?
I didn't smell it before, but it was there after.
She's not very observant.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will now have a quick intermission.
we've all said some bad things about the Commissioner tonight. We should let him rest. It's wicked to speak ill of the dead.
Ooh, it's also very unwise. He can hear us, you know.
Oh, Lord, you don't mean it.
Don't be a fool, Minnie. Charles is dead, and he's going to stay dead. Now close your mouth and get us something to drink. I'll have a brandy. Anyone else?
No, how dare you? I never touch spirits.
No, thank you.
No.
After tonight, I don't think I'll drink ever again.
Well, I was going to propose a toast to our unbeloved and unlamented Charles, but since you won't join me, I'll drink to him alone. To Charles, may he rest in peace forever.
What is it?
Miss Lansing!
What's going on? What's happened?
She can't breathe.
Poison. No. No, I'm all right. I drank powder. This glass is coated with powder.
My forensics team dusted all the glasses for evidence. I thought you knew that.
Why, so they did. I should have noticed, but then I'm such a fool.
Why don't you have a seat, Mrs. Lansing? Now, if you fully recovered, allow me to ask you a few more questions, and I believe I can tell you who killed Charles Lansing.
No, perhaps I can assist, Lieutenant. See, the answer you seek can be found in the cards.
I appreciate your offer to help Madam Arcadia, but I believe the department would frown on me for using tarot cards to solve a murder case.
You would be amazed at what the cards can tell you, young man. Come here. Look. All right. Ah, High Priestess. Yes, I knew that one. And when it's covered by, Justice. Don't being so rude. And when crossed by, oh my God,
What is it?
the death card. Someone else will die here at Darkwood tonight.
Oh, put them away. Put them evil things away.
Sinful,
The
sinful.
tarot cards never lie.
They might not, madam, but unfortunately people do. I know more than one of you has lied to me tonight, but I think I figured out who and why. Let's review everybody's whereabouts between 10:15 and midnight tonight. Miss Basco, if you'll start.
At 10:15, Madame Arcadia and I were getting ready to leave when I discovered that I had the new will in my purse. I returned to the parlor to give it to Mr. Lansing. Went back to the entry hall. Madame Arcadia and I left. I dropped her off at her house at about 11, and I returned to my house at about 11:20, and I went to bed.
Do you concur with these times, Madam Arcadia?
I do indeed. I was at home in bed alone a little past 11.
Mrs. Lansing, if you'll go next.
At 10:15, I went upstairs to the bedroom and took a bath. At 11, I turned on the television, and at 11:45, I went downstairs to the parlor. The doors were locked. When I asked Charles to let me in, he told me to go away. I was returning to the bedroom when I heard the shot.
Thank you. Mrs. Williams.
I went upstairs to my room, undressed, and I got ready for bed. I dozed off and I woke up at 11:35. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I went to the library. That's when I heard the shot.
Mr. Williams.
I drove over to the Sunset Lounge. I was there from 10:30 to 11:30 or so. Then I went home. Once I was home, I went on up to my room and passed out on top of the bed. The next thing I remember hearing was a bang.
Mrs. Marshbanks.
Ooh, I'll try, but I don't much like thinking about it. Fenton and me locked up the house after the ladies left. Mr. Lansing had locked himself in the parlor, so I didn't disturb him. He'd stay in here all night sometimes, drinking.
Go on.
Well, Fenton and me went upstairs and was talking when he said he saw a light at 13 minutes till midnight. My God, 13 minutes till midnight. I told him not to go down there. I said no.
Yes, Mrs.
Fenton.
Marshbanks, I remember. Can you just tell me what you did?
I shook.
You shook.
I was that scared, you see. And I get so nervous, and when I heard that bang, me bladder nearly let go.
Thank you, Mrs.
It
Marshbanks.
didn't, mind you, but it's a real miracle I held me water.
Yes, I'm sure.
And me teeth.
Thank you, Lord. After you heard the
Amen!
After you heard the gunshot, you went back downstairs where you met Mrs. Lansing and the others in front of the hall.
I did.
To be led in by you, Mr. Marshbanks.
That's right. Like Minnie said, I went downstairs about 10 minutes to 12 and out the back door.
Earlier, you told me you used the servants' stairs,
Yes, sir.
which is why you didn't see anybody else about the house.
No, sir. I was coming around the corner when I heard the gunshot.
Mr. Marshbanks, from where you were standing when you heard the gunshot, could you see these French doors?
Yes, sir, I could.
And you went directly towards them.
I did.
Did anybody else come out of the French doors?
No, nobody came through them doors.
Then I wonder, where did our murderer go?
Well, probably went out that way towards the den.
Where he would have been seen by Mrs. Lansing and the others? No, Mr. Marchbanks, I don't think so. Murder had only two ways to get out of this room at midnight. Through the French doors where he would have been seen by you, or through the parlor doors where he would have been seen by the others. That leads me to only one conclusion.
It was me what killed him. I killed him. Oh, he was such a horrible man. He didn't deserve to live. I killed him. I did.
Calm down, Mrs. Marchbanks. Your husband didn't kill Charles Lansing any more than you did. Now, as I was trying to say, the murderer could not have gotten out of this room at midnight without being seen by anybody else, which means that Charles Lansing was dead long before 12 o'clock. Wasn't he, Mr. Williams? When did you decide to kill your stepfather, Mr. Williams?
I won't let you.
The truth has to come out, Miss Bascom. The entire truth. Mr. Williams?
Laura told me what happened the night Charles tried to force himself onto her. Said that she'd have to leave and she'd send for me when she could. But I was so afraid. Without Laura, I don't know.
So yesterday, the next day, you went into the den where you stole the gun, am I correct?
Yes, sir. I decided I was going to shoot him after the seance. Once Madame Arcadia and Carolyn left, I told Laura and Evelyn that I was going to go to the Sunset Lounge for a bit. And then I went outside, waited until Minnie and Fenton locked up and let myself back in. I went to the parlor, but the door was locked. As Minnie said, that usually meant Charles planned to stay up all night drinking. I started to knock, but I was so afraid. I was just so afraid. And then I thought I'd get drunk, and so I went to the lounge.
I think I can guess what happened then. You left the lounge around 10:30. As you said earlier, it takes about 15 minutes to get home. 45. You drove up to the house quietly. You could probably still see lights burning in the bedroom windows. You decided to go in through the French door, so you didn't risk the chance of running into anybody else about the house. You took a flashlight from the car, the flashlight that Mr. Marchbanks saw, and the gun, and came around to the French doors quietly.
Charles, I know you're in there, Charles. Let me in. I know you're in there, Charles. Have you passed out? Good. It'll make this easier. Oh my God!
Charles, let me in. I have to speak with you.
Go away. Leave me alone.
You waited until Mrs. Lansing left, then followed her up the stairs at a safe distance. She had probably just reached the landing and turned towards her room. You turned and bolted towards yours. You just finished shoving the gun under the mattress when you heard the gunshot from down here. Am I correct, Mr. Williams?
That's exactly how it happened, Lieutenant. How did you know?
I recall the name of the movie Mrs. Lansing had been watching earlier this evening, Imitation of Life. I realized that she hadn't been talking to Charles Lansing at all, but rather an imitation of a live Charles Lansing. The glass shards in your sweater put you here in this room after 10:15 p.m. She must have been talking to you.
But how do you know I didn't shoot him?
The gun was fully loaded. It had not been fired. You couldn't have shot him.
But I had the gun.
But you didn't shoot him, did you?
No.
And you know, son, I don't think you would have. You're a good man. Just put everything that happened here right behind you.
I will. Thank you, Lieutenant Paris.
Paris, I'm a little confused.
Naturally.
See, if Craig discovered Mr. Lansing's body at 10 till midnight, and yet the gunshot wasn't heard till 12, then who in the world killed him, and how?
Very good question, Madame Arcadia. Would you like to answer them, Miss Bascom?
You said the whole truth has to come out, right?
Do you remember correctly?
And you know what the whole truth is.
I do.
Well, Lieutenant, as an attorney, I'm more used to asking the questions than I am answering them. Why don't you tell me what you believe happened here tonight?
As you wish. Both Mrs. Lansing and Mr. Marchbanks told me you. They also told me you cared for the Williams youngsters. Mrs. Marchbanks told me you were with her the night you overheard Charles Lansing attempt to seduce Laura Williams. He had rejected you once for Evelyn Stanley. After learning of his intentions towards Miss Williams, I can imagine you deciding to put an end to the despicable man's life. You had all of yesterday to plan it. You came to the seance. Then, when you were getting ready to leave, you excused yourself to return to the parlor to give Mr. Lansing the new will.
Charles?
I'm over here, Caroline. Yes, that's it. You helped one of your girls.
Alone in the dark with your thoughts.
I found the lights to be glaring after having had them off for the seance.
Well, let me look in here. I've brought the new will.
Oh, is that so?
Yep.
When you arrived earlier, you told me it hadn't been finished yet.
Well, it had been. I just needed an excuse to come back here.
Oh, really? Brandy?
Gross.
Suit yourself. I'll just pour myself a refill.
You go about that.
So now you've changed your mind about me signing the will, have you?
Nope. I just needed to come back here. You won't be signing it.
I won't.
You won't, Charles.
And why won't I sign it?
Because you've caused enough misery for one lifetime, Charles. For me, for Ava, even for Evelyn, even though she deserves it. I know what you tried to do to Laura last night, and I'm not gonna let you hurt her too.
The bullet pierced the compact case in your purse before leaving to strike at Charles Lansing. When I left all of you here earlier, I called the coroner, asked them to check for traces of face powder around the wound. They found tiny particles embedded in the skin. Then you walked to the table, where a trail of dust leaked from your purse. Out of your purse, you grabbed a twig. A twig to which you would take a firecracker to. Probably a cherry bomb or some similar thing. Makes out a bang whenever it explodes. A bang as loud as a gun shot. When Mrs. Marshbanks told me that you, the cracker from her room, I realized how you would plan your alibi. You're an intelligent woman, Miss Bascombe. You could have left the gun there in front of Charles to make it like a suicide. Or perhaps busted the French doors to make it like a break-in had occurred. I can only assume that you would hope. I grant you the evidence against you is circumstantial, but it should be enough. You obviously had to bring a new purse here tonight. You had to put a new fold in the will when I gave it back to you earlier. By now, my men have awakened a judge with a search warrant for your house. Will they find the purse there? The purse with the broken compact case inside? Might they find someone who remembers selling you fireworks the day before? Might they even find a dogwood tree in your front yard, Miss Bascombe?
Well, you'll find two.
Beautiful tree, the dogwood. Slender and delicate. Not the kind of tree anybody would burn in the fireplace, is it?
No. You know, Lieutenant, it's a shame we couldn't have worked on a case together sometime. You're good. You're darned good.
Well, I guess you could say work on one case together. Only we were on opposite sides.
Yes. You know, I'm not going to fence with you, Lieutenant. You're right. I killed Charles Lansing.
Carolyn, you couldn't have.
I'm sorry, Laura. I had to, Lieutenant. Thank you so much. Please go to the fireplace.
Why don't you put that gun down, Miss Bascombe? Someone could get hurt.
I'm being very careful.
You can't alter fate, Lieutenant.
Laura, I'm sorry. I couldn't let you or Craig or the Marshbanks pay for what I had done.
But you'd let me go to jail for you. Or worse, wouldn't you? Just like Lieutenant Paris said.
Craig, please, just come over here with your sister. Thank you. That's good. Evelyn, get up.
Would you just wait?
Come on, get up. I don't want to hear it.
Why don't you leave her there? You don't need a hostage. I'll give you a head start, I promise.
I'm almost inclined to believe you, Lieutenant. But Evelyn has to go with me.
Take one of the others.
Lieutenant Paris knows I wouldn't harm any of them. I'd like to set the record straight, Lieutenant. I loved Charles Lansing desperately. He told me that him and this one had killed Ava.
I knew you killed her. I knew it!
Hush, miss, hush.
Is there anything else?
Yes. Unlock the door. Not going anywhere. Yes. Laura, Craig, I'm sorry for what I've done to you and your mother, but I'm going to fix that wrong. According to the laws of this state, when Charles died, Evelyn got everything. But you two, as her stepchildren, get everything when Evelyn dies.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to see that justice is done.
Stop it!
Carolyn, don't!
It's okay.
High Priestess. Justice. death card.